Ever wonder why scam calls feel so specific? Why they somehow already know your name, your city, or even your address? It's usually because of data brokers. These companies collect your personal information from across the internet and sell it online, usually without you even realizing it. Things like your phone number, home address, family members, and even places you've lived. And once your information is out there, it spreads fast. That's where Aura comes in. Aura automatically finds your personal information on data broker sites and submits removal requests for you. Then Aura keeps monitoring to help make sure your information stays gone. You can even see where your data was found and removed. And Aura goes beyond data removal. You also get a VPN, antivirus, password manager, spam call protection, dark web monitoring, and up to $5 million in identity theft insurance. Right now, you can try Aura free at aura.com/hidden. That's aura.com/hidden.
Welcome to Lifestyle Solopreneur, the community for entrepreneurs who put lifestyle first. Join your host, Flavia Barris, as she interviews successful lifestyle solopreneurs and shares ideas to help you find the perfect balance between lifestyle, business, and self. Flavia is an attorney, marketing expert, and founder of several online academies. She's been featured in major media, including BBC World News, The Wall Street Journal, The New York Post, ESPN Television, and more. Join us for this episode of Lifestyle Solopreneur.
Hey, Lifestyle Solopreneurs. Today we get to speak with Dr. Jordan Romano. He is a board-certified internal medicine physician with over 14 years of clinical experience. He has a wealth of knowledge and experience to share with fellow healthcare professionals and really any expert who has expertise in a particular niche. In addition to his clinical work, Dr. Romano has become the go-to resource for medical malpractice law firms nationwide, providing highly valued expert testimony and consultation. With nearly a decade of medical expert witness experience, he has not only honed his skills, but has also mentored physicians at all stages of their expert witness journey. Dr. Romano is passionate about utilizing his expertise to help other professionals succeed. Welcome to the show, Dr. Romano.
Good afternoon.
Well, Jordan, here's the thing that I find fascinating about what you do. I mean, you're a physician. That's your day job. That's what you do. But you also managed to sort of delve into this world of being an expert witness. And that is when attorneys need someone who has very specific expertise to come and consult on a case or even potentially testify at trial. So I think all of that is just such a unique area of our legal system. And I think there's a lot of people out there that have no idea how that really works. They maybe have seen a TV show or two, and they've seen, someone get called to the stand to talk about a bullet trajectory or something, bullet markings. But that's TV. Tell us about how you got involved and what this is in the real world.
Great question. I would say serendipity. As you pointed out, I'm a physician. I was on service. This is probably, call it 12 years ago. I was on service. It happened to be in the physician lounge, and one of my colleagues looked, as I recall, a little harried. And I said, "Hey, what's going on?" He said, "Oh, I have a case that." He was just kind of, it sounded like he was speaking in like code language. And I'm an internist. I do hospital medicine. Surgeons speak about cases, like a surgical case. So when he said a case, it didn't seem to fit. And I'm like, "Well, where's the patient?" And he said, "How long have you been out of residency?" And I let him know. And he said, "You know what? It's a legal case, but I'll take you out to lunch tomorrow and we can talk about it then." And that's how I learned about it. It was just serendipity. One of my colleagues was busy. He didn't have time to review this case for an attorney. And he introduced me to the space. And that one case, maybe 6 months to a year later, led to a second case. And slowly, I certainly didn't realize I would be helping as many people as I am today in the space. But I would say it started with that one first case. And then I'm always a curious person, and it just led to more curiosity. And then speaking to people about it and realizing people wanted some help. And certainly since the pandemic, there's been a kind of resurgence of interest in the space. And so I'm happy to help attorneys and experts alike.
And so what are attorneys looking for when they are seeking an expert witness or an expert consultant on a case? What, from the attorney's perspective, what are they seeking?
I mean, generally speaking, again, I'm not an attorney, but so I'm taking some creative license here. From my perspective, what it seems like there's the practical piece of it. They need to have an expert comment on the case. From a medical legal perspective, there's a lot, we get into the weeds in terms of terminology as to the standard of care and people commenting on, did something happen that shouldn't have happened, or should something have happened that didn't? They basically need to understand like what happened and have somebody interpret and translate the records or the facts of the case from all the information that they've collected. And from a medical perspective, there is a patient who something untoward had happened, and there's two sides. There's the plaintiff who represents the aggrieved patient or their family, and then the insurance company who hires a firm to defend the healthcare practitioners. And there is experts on both sides. From a practical sense, what is an attorney looking for? I mean, somebody who is responsive, right? Attorneys don't want to just reach out to an expert and have it hear crickets for a week. They want somebody who's responsive, professional, honest. They don't want to be pursuing cases that have no merit. So they want to speak to experts who kind of call balls and strikes. They call it like they see it. And they don't want to sway that expert into or convince that expert to supporting a case that has no merit, because that just wastes everybody's time and money. In general, I would say those are the things. They want somebody who's available, somebody who's professional. And frankly, a lot of the attorneys that I'm speaking with, they want somebody who's experienced. And so that makes it kind of challenging on, well, how do you get into expert witness work or opportunities when really the attorneys, because these are high stakes scenarios in the legal realm, from everybody's perspective, do you bring somebody in who's never done this before? And that is a challenge that a lot of attorneys kind of wrestle with.
How narrow does it get? Because someone can be kind of a broad expert on a whole area, but some of it can be pretty narrow and more specific. So what are some examples you've seen or heard of where an attorney was seeking an expert in something that would be quite niche and maybe even really hard to find?
That's a great analysis. And some of it's personal preference. I mean, because again, sometimes the retaining attorneys are like, you know what, they know the opposing party and they kind of, you know what, a general surgeon's fine. But sometimes they're like, I want to match apples to apples, and not even just apples to apples. This is an Empire apple and I need an Empire apple, so they can say exactly what it's like to be an Empire apple. And the legal system, depending on the jurisdiction, gives some leeway as to who can comment on whom. I'm not a lawyer. There's obviously some nuance that I understand, but I don't know all of the jurisdictional nuance. But using myself as an example, I'm a hospitalist. I practice internal medicine in the hospital. Well, for the most part, the jobs are similar, but then there are people who just do nighttime hospital medicine. There are hospitals where when you go to the ICU, the intensive care unit, you are cared for by the hospitalist as well as a intensivist or a ICU doctor. There are some hospitals where when you transfer the patient to the ICU, it's what they call a closed ICU, where you just have the ICU doctor and the hospitalist doesn't follow the patient in. So there was a case, I would say in the past couple of years, that I passed on because I spoke briefly with the attorney and I quickly realized, oh, this is an individual who continued to follow the patient in what we call an open ICU. And I said, listen, I don't see patients. I haven't worked in a place that has an open ICU. And so if you're looking to match apples to apples, and like Empire, using my example, Empire is a type of apple for those who aren't into apples, or I'm in New England, we enjoy our apples up here. But so I just basically said, I think you need to find somebody who does exactly what this person does, because it really impacts the fact pattern of the case. And it will be helpful for that individual to be like, I know what it's like to work in an open ICU, and here's why what this person did was appropriate. I think that's the level of detail and granularity you can get into. Right.
And for me, actually, as an aside, I like Cosmic Crisp apples. I think they're the best. They're crispy and very sweet. So But I would think that if your work shifted and your expertise shifted and you did start to work in an ICU in like a different capacity than you did back then, that your own expertise could shift. And over time, you might be available to be an expert in different things. And perhaps that's sort of something that changes over time. And there's people listening right now who might not be an expert in something today, but in 5 years, they would be. So what do you think makes someone an expert? Like, let's say someone is an expert in, you gave a great example once. I heard you talk about this. Give us your golf cart example that someone can be an expert in golf carts and injuries.
It's interesting. So it's not something, most of the people that I help are in the medical field and relate to medical malpractice. Over time, some of that has gone into the personal injury space. And that's where you get into some of these unique types of experts. Somebody reached out to me through my website, and he has a background in understanding and designing golf courses, but in particular I don't think he's essentially a mechanic, but he understands the mechanics of golf carts and the capabilities of golf carts and the injuries associated that can occur with golf carts. And that the one thing I've learned in doing this work is the United States is absolutely massive. And there are niches upon niches upon niches. Who would have known that there's something like 25,000 golf cart injuries in certain jurisdictions per year? Like it's just, and you can imagine that's likely Florida is one of the larger jurisdictions for golf cart injuries. And so it's a thing. It's a thing where the attorneys representing the golf course are looking for somebody to defend the golf course. And then the person who's injured, who may be suing the golf course, is looking for an expert to comment on, was something wrong with the accelerator? Was something wrong with the roll bars when they bent? Were the tires inflated to the right? Like there's all sorts of like nuanced mechanics and how the course is designed that might be flawed. And to me, it's just fascinating with the level of detail and specificity that you can get into with some of these cases. And that was just simply by happenstance. This individual reached out to me and said, "Do you think you can help me get cases?" And I said, "Well, geez, is that a thing?" And he's like, yeah. There are definitely cases out there. I have some buddies who do this, but I'd like to get into it too. And I said, "All right, let's roll. Let me see what I can do."
Well, that sounds like you took it on as a challenge, but at the end of the day, yeah, there was demand, and that was great. I have a story to share as well. As listeners know, I'm an attorney, and when I was in law school, I learned about expert witnesses. And I remember thinking, well, this is fascinating. And I kind of thought for a minute, what am I an expert in? Like, what am I an absolute expert in? And at that time, I had been in the sport of cheerleading from soup to nuts because I had done it as a very young child and then gone on to do it in high school, then college, then for the NFL at that time. So I was a professional cheerleader, and then I ran camps, and then I worked behind the scenes in professional cheerleading. So I really felt like, hey, I've done this for my whole life, and I know what I'm talking about if someone were to ask me about this sport. And I made myself available as an expert witness. And while I was still a law student, I did get picked up for a case, and it was personal injury. A cheerleader had gotten hurt. And the questions were, did the team follow best practices and protocol for safety in the way that they were doing their acrobatic stunts? And I remember it was a very interesting case, and I got to read through all of the evidence, and I got to give my analysis and a report, and it ended up settling. So I never got to sit in, the expert witness stand in trial. It settled, but I was an instrumental part of it. And I remember thinking, it was neat to kind of flex that knowledge, because when you're an expert, you don't get a lot of options and opportunities to talk about that expertise in sort of a different context. And trial in a court is probably different than, sitting on the golf course, right? Or being out there coaching cheerleading. You get to sort of flex those muscles in a different way. So how many years of experience do you think someone would need to have in a particular field to be considered an expert? Like in your experience, how have people been deemed enough of an expert or not enough of an expert to do something specific? I would love to know about that a little bit, because there's people listening who may be experts in something, but they may be doubting how much of an expertise they need to prove and how that gets challenged by the hiring attorney or maybe challenged in court, by the other attorney.
Yeah, I mean, you bring up a good point there. So there's kind of buckets, like who's an expert? Like, do you feel like an expert, right? Like, are you an expert? Would you qualify to even to opine on a case, to comment on the case? And do you feel qualified? Then there's like the attorney, would the attorney retain you? And then there's how the whole legalese and legal precedents. Do you even qualify from a legal perspective? Do you qualify as an expert witness? I can't comment on the last bucket just because there's so much nuance depending on the jurisdiction. And there's a lot of nuance as to like, how do we count somebody as an expert? Going back to it, generally speaking, I think the analogy, my Apple analogy, is a good one, which is like, there are lawsuits that are occurring and there are people that need to comment on either the individual actors in a situation or the mechanics in a situation. Clearly, there's a time component to like, do you feel like you're an expert? By the time I had started, let's just say this isn't your first year out from residency, right? Like, because a lot of the lawsuits in a medical malpractice sense are you're commenting on an attending physician. If you've been an attending physician for a year, you're probably going to be scrutinized by opposing counsel as to like, well, how well do you know the job? Because you've only really been doing it for like a few months. So you're less likely. It doesn't mean you're not going to be retained, and it doesn't mean you wouldn't be good at it, but you're less likely to be retained. This is just from a medical perspective. In terms of an individual, it's like, depending on what it is, the cheerleading, you have a very robust resume, right? Like, I think this is somebody who, if you did it historically and you aren't currently doing it, I think that's a nice litmus test as well, which is like, people I know like to say, oh, you're a runner. Not I am a runner. Like, okay, maybe I'll run an occasional 5K, but like, and yes, my high school team that I was on, I was part of the cross country team that was state champions. I can call myself a state champion, but like, to say I'm a runner now, like, I understand running and I could probably coach it, but I am not a running expert. Okay. Now I've accomplished a lot in running, but I am not currently a running expert. And so I think that now I know more than most, and I could comment. I could never put myself in a situation to say I'm a running expert from a legal perspective. And so don't do that like high school hero stuff. I think that was the first thing I would say is, what are you currently doing, right? And how long have you been currently doing that? I think that that's the piece, one of the pieces that I would say that makes an individual an expert. So if it's high school hero stuff and you're like, oh yeah, I used to. Well, how long ago was used to? And most places have a at least from a medical perspective, and I'll delve into some of the specifics, depending on the jurisdiction, it's you need to have the same training and be doing the same or similar job at the time of the event. Right? Most jurisdictions, and by jurisdictions, I mean states, will say that's a roughly, I'm paraphrasing here for anybody listening, but it's really, were you doing the role at the time this event occurred? That's one of the things that, at least from a medical perspective, that makes you an expert. So are you in current active practice versus like you're retired?
So this seems more like something that would fit into kind of a side gig, or, you moonlight doing this, but you have to keep your expertise fresh. So this wouldn't be like a full-time job for someone. So someone probably would not be a full-time expert witness, because if they are, then really what they're committed to doing every single week is being an expert witness rather than participating in whatever it is that they are an expert in. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, that's the right way of describing it. Absolutely.
So let's say there's someone listening right now who is an expert in, I don't even know, dog behavior, right? Because we have dog bites and things. So someone's maybe a dog trainer and someone who works really closely and has for many, many years in many different contexts with dangerous dogs and training dogs and has experience in this. So let's say they say, okay, you know what? I'm an expert in dog behavior and dog injury, and I would like to make myself available as an expert witness if there's ever a case in which my expertise would be useful. So how does that are they supposed to call law firms around the country, or what would that person do to sort of show that they are available for this?
That's a perfect example. So at a certain point, you have to tell the marketplace that you're available, right? So some people say advertising is a dirty word, but advertising truly just means to make known. So you're just trying to let people know that you exist. There's the simplest way, 50,000 foot view. There's people you don't know, and there's people you do know. There's doing this work yourself or having other people do it. That's sort of the simple quadrant of doing this. You can advertise yourself. You can have people do it for you. You can reach out to people using social media. A lot of people would say LinkedIn is a decent choice. And you could reach out to people you know and just let them know you're doing this, right? Or you can do individual outreach. So you can do a general post on LinkedIn saying, hey, everybody, many of you know I'm a dog trainer with 20 years of experience, and I have this certification and this and this and this, and I've trained this many thousands of dogs. I'd love to comment on dog behavior incidents, nationwide. So they can make a general post, but you could also use the search functions in LinkedIn and specifically target attorneys yourself. Now, if you have, like me, like most clinicians, if you're busy, you can have firms. There are marketing agencies or agencies or businesses that will do this work for you. And so that's the other way to do it.
It's like having an agent, right? Trying to get you work and gigs. I mean, actors have agents and sports figures have agents. I'm thinking of that movie, Jerry Maguire, right? He was an agent and was able to help his client get on different sports teams or do commercials or whatever it is. So I get that. And I think for a lot of busy people, that makes sense. But it's nice to also know there is kind of that DIY option as well, which is probably less effective. But even if someone wanted to add on their LinkedIn profile, expert in, because there could be people searching for those words, literally, like expert in dog behavior. And it might, maybe just natural organic search might pick you up.
I like that. And the other thing, you used a word, you kind of alluded to the time frame with which this could happen. Listen, if to that dog expert out there or anyone who liked that analogy and feels like they're similar, in your first year, try to be retained once, right? Like to get one case. By its nature, the legal process is very long. Certainly from a medical malpractice standpoint or personal injury standpoint, the legal process tends to be years. And so when these individuals, there are some people who start and they have traction straight away, but by its nature, it's very lumpy. You get one case, you hear nothing for months. For new folks, I mean, my first year, I did one case, and so that's why I say, like, you have all these amazing tools, put your name out there, throw your hat in the ring, to use that analogy, but expect not much to happen for a long time because nobody knows you. And if they don't know you, they can't like you or trust you. And these are high stakes situations. So I would encourage somebody, if you're willing to do this and you're curious to start, understand that the life cycle of these cases is long and that to have a month is not a long period of time in any sort of legal process. A year, honestly, is not that much time either. And so you have to be willing to, I've been at this for 12 years. And so I would say those early years were very quiet years. There are still months that go by where not much is happening from an expert witness perspective. And so be okay with the fact that this is not something that just you snap your fingers, you make a post, and the world opens up. It's something where it takes time for people to find you and then for you to share your expertise and to kind of build that network.
And so you've mentored a lot of experts who want to break into this. In fact, you are involved in that part of it as well. So tell us what that looks like. I know it's not your full-time thing. I mean, you're a physician, so you're quite busy. So how does that look? Because everyone listening here, I would say probably the majority of everyone listening here likes to diversify what they do and be involved in different things. So what does that look like for you and how do you help others? And it might be something that listeners are looking for as far as a service. So tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. Some years ago, I founded medicalexpertwitness.com. And over time, we started doing medical malpractice only, and it's kind of morphed into personal injury and other sort of lawsuits and experts that we represent. But it's a marketing agency and we do marketing and practice management. So the professionals that we help are busy. They have day jobs. Most of them are physicians or nurses or pharmacists, or I have a ladder expert. I have some Navy SEALs that do scuba diving injuries, that golf cart expert that I was just mentioning, all sorts of different types of medical device engineers and that sort of thing that they can comment on. And they're busy in their day job, but they also do expert witnessing from time to time. And what we do is we help them with that, almost like practice management. So we market them as themselves to the marketplace. Then when things come in, we help them with sort of logistics, scheduling meetings, doing invoicing and that sort of thing. And I think that helps take the edge off, for these busy professionals from helping them get their name out there. I like to say we're another line in the water. We are, I think, a successful expert witness, or to be successful in this day and age, there's people consume information or in many different ways, and therefore you need to reach them in many different ways. Agencies like mine are one avenue. Other people will do the direct advertising. Other people will use things on social media like LinkedIn. And so an agency like mine is a part of the recipe that successful expert witnesses use to reach out and to kind of also not overinvest in terms of their time to do things where they have a busy day life.
And in your work, does your company ever have to source and find experts that you don't already have in your database because a request came in for something that you just don't currently have? Or do you turn those requests down because you'd like to just already have people in your database before you do the matchmaking?
I would say all that. I chat with hundreds of experts every year. By the way, if you want to chat with me, I'd love to hear your story. I've met some just phenomenally interesting individuals. I was just reviewing something with a team member. He's a food process expert who tends to comment on franchises. So his day job, I think I'm getting this right. His day job is that he is hired by franchises to go around and help design the protocols for the franchisees so that they don't cross-contaminate or contaminate anything, to make sure that the food safety processes are safe and uniform across all franchises. But at the same time, since he, in air quotes, knows how the sausage is made, comments in lawsuits defending franchisees, but also if somebody is aggrieved, like in I don't think he was involved in this case, but the McDonald's hot coffee case, was the right process followed in terms of making the coffee and that sort of thing. And so we've been able to get someone like him some cases. And so we do have some very unique individuals in our database, but from time to time, absolutely, there are, as you can imagine, these are human beings. They go on vacation. They're busy with their day job and not available to take another case. Maybe they've taken a couple cases and they don't have the room to take another one. And so what I would say is, historically, expert witnessing has been kind of in the shadows, if you will. And I think in this day and age, there's more individuals like myself who are saying we need to talk about this. We need to bring more people into the fold to help the process move more efficiently. So that was a long answer to a short question, but I love going out into the marketplace and finding experts. I know a lot of different people, but from time to time, there is they need somebody very specific, and it does take having a very diffuse network to find that individual.
Well, and maybe that's motivation and inspiration for people listening. If you have a niche expertise, plant that flag and wave that flag and let people know about it so that you're findable, because there may be someone desperately looking for your exact level of expertise in your niche area. So I think that's great. If someone wants to learn more about your sort of expert matchmaking service, where you match up experts with attorneys who need them, and just about you in general and what you're up to, where would they go to connect?
medicalexpertwitness.com is my company. From there, there's a booking page. You can book directly with me. I know my team says I need to cram down how many of those I accept, but I love chatting with people. Go to medicalexpertwitness.com, book a call with me. I'd love to hear your story, hear what you're up to, and share some of my experiences with you.
Well, Jordan, thank you so much for what you do in the world, because again, you are playing this role. You're not only helping people in medicine because you're a physician, and that's one of the most sort of noble professions. I mean, you're really helping people day in, day out. But then you also have this occasional, side gig where you are helping the justice system, which again is a very just important, integral part of society. And so for all of your efforts out there on behalf of our audience, I just want to say thank you, not just for what you do, but for sharing with us today all about it. Thanks, Dr. Romano. It's been a pleasure to meet with you.
Thanks for having me.
Guess what, lifestyle solopreneurs? If you don't yet have an online business earning you enough passive income to live the life of your dreams, I'd like to suggest you consider trying out Kajabi. Kajabi is an all-in-one solution where you can create and teach online courses, publish a paid newsletter, launch a free or paid podcast, process payments, build one-on-one coaching portals for your clients, and much, much more. I personally use Kajabi to power numerous successful and profitable online businesses. Lifestyle solopreneurs, there's a free trial of Kajabi waiting for you at this link, www.kfreetrial.com. You can try Kajabi for free, no obligation, by going to www.kfreetrial.com. Again, kfreetrial.com, and that K stands for Kajabi. Starting an online business helped me break free from that corporate grind, and I hope it does the same for you. You have nothing to lose and absolutely everything to gain. Thanks so much for tuning in today. Don't forget to subscribe to the show, and see you next time.